Hello, welcome to another video, and today, well, it's finally here. I did this for Subjugator and Thol, where I used all 15 action skills versus the raid boss in Platinum time. Well, it's time to do it for the Takedown. This is going to be, all the runs are on Mayhem 20 scaled. Some of these builds, a lot of these builds can definitely do true scaled, and I will mention that as I go through them. But I decided to do all the recording on scaled, just for like A, to speed it up a bit, and B, for easier comparison between them. Just to really see the difference of, say, like Gloam Cash to 0 Point Harlowe. So, yeah, unfortunately, there is no on-screen indication of the Mayhem. So, at the start of each clip, I show me accepting them for what that's worth. But yeah, all runs were done on Mayhem 20. And most of them were done on live stream as well, if you really don't believe, since some people don't, for reasons I don't know, as if he'd lie. But anyway, intro out of the way, I'm starting with Green Tree Harlowe here, because there isn't really much to talk about with Green Tree Harlowe. Green Tree Harlowe's all the same. This one's got 59 points in Green Tree. And I'm actually using heavy weapons in the Trooper this time, instead of just a normal gun build. Now, for what it's worth, when using heavy weapons, you are still better off using a proper class mod like the Generator or the Phlebotomist. I think the Phlebotomist works out a bit better in this content. However, I'm using the Trooper because it's easy. If you let your ammo run out or you put it away and you're not at 3 shots, you can just instantly get your action. You can usually get your heavy weapon back immediately. The main downside of the Trooper is it doesn't have a proper duration skill, so you are having to put your weapon away a lot to get your action skill back compared to the other class mods. So you will want a good weapon that does lots of hits for confirmative reality. And in that, my favourite is the Katagawa's Revenge. So using that to get my ordnance, my action skill back, and then it's just spam away with the Heimdall. The Heimdall's going to be a pretty recurring character today because it's just built for this content. It is one of the fastest clearing things in the game. It's like a hive, but it can go through walls. The fact that it can go through walls is like the most broken thing. It's just like, it just does not care. So we do a quick swap to the Dropnir as we burn through Watchcraft there. Dropnir has got the highest card DPS of anything in the game. So long as you can shoot it, it's very good damage, and we'll be using that for all 3 bosses on this character, and a couple of other builds. Obviously, Green Tree Harlowe can do True Mode as well, pushing towards 10 minutes, maybe less at this point as well, using the Heimdall and a Phlebotomist class mod. And the thing is if you do run out of Heimdall shots using those other class mods, it's not the end of the world. Your Harlowe, you just use a Stray or something until you get it back. Yeah, Heimdall's very easy for this. You can use lots of different weapons for a takedown. I even did a Platinum takedown run with the Marshal's Claw and a couple of other funky weapons. Harlowe really is just the equip any gun and shoot without thinking character. She's just like the cool soldier. Even though she's a scientist, she knows how to shoot a gun. And yeah, she flies through here, one of the easiest and quickest characters for the takedown. That's going to call it for me on commentary on this particular run. At the end of each run, I will be showing all of the builds, like the skill points, the specializations, the gear. I'll show everything after each run. And then I will be back to commentating for the start of the next one. And up next, I believe, is Chroma Accelerator. So, yes, enjoy the rest of this run, and yeah, I'll catch you in a little bit. And now we're on to Chroma Accelerator. Well, I say Chroma Accelerator, we all know it's neutron capture. Unfortunately, Chroma Accelerator just isn't very good. It's fine-ish in playthrough, but then into late and endgame, the different ones, Cue Ball and Shattering Light, do start dropping off, and it becomes the Demon Core Neutron Capture show. And, well, it's an old build, and it's relatively unchanged since the start of the game. They did that slight tweak at the beginning, which basically changed what guns were used. And, yeah, well, in terms of how powerful it is, it's just fine. When putting this build together, there is basically an order of which I farm weapons. It's quite an easy build to put together. So in terms of guns, all you're going to need is a Wombo Combo. Wombo Combo is your bossing weapon. Now, yeah, people will tell you can do things with like Parasite, which is a pearl, and it converts the element. But Wombo Combo is kinetic anyway, so you don't actually really find yourself in a situation where the Parasite beats the Wombo very often. And then for mobbing, grabbing a Lucian's Flank is my favorite. It's guaranteed to have the spinny barrel for extra fire rate. Fire rate is very important on this build, and then also guarantees Jacob's Ricochet, so very good for mobbing. However, to go a bit further on, you can get a Torg Jacobs spinny barrel let-off weapon in either like an Aegon's Dream, a Vizumi, or the Buri being the best, and that's what I'm using today. I could have used a Lucian's Flank and still got Platinum. It's pretty comfy. This is a build that can do true mode with plenty of time remaining when played well. But the Buri is just so nice to use. If you can get a Torg Jacobs one of these, it's pretty disgusting for this build. The reason why Torg's so important is because we paired that with Airburst, and it means you don't really have to spend any time aiming. You just like throw bullets at enemies, and they'll connect even if you miss, which is, it speeds you up a lot. It might seem a simple thing, just like oh hey, you don't have to aim as much, but that actually saves a lot of time when you're burning through so many enemies. Now as we move on towards the Watchgraph room after this, Watchgraph is actually probably the most difficult fight for this build, and that's mainly because you can't hit it twice with splash weapons with High Cal 3. Also, it's hard to get a good amount of neutron capture bonus stacked up. It's definitely a situation where you do not want to be killing too many ads, and you want to try and collect as many ads in your Chroma Accelerator as possible, so it hits more enemies and you get more damage in and into Watchgraph. I had some runs where Watchgraph was absolutely awful, and some runs where he absolutely just melted. So it is going to be inconsistent, and just use your neutron capture whenever you see an opportunity of lots of ads together. And the same is true for the later bosses as well. It's just more important on Watchgraph just because of how awkward that fight can be. But we'll get through them, and yeah, we'll complete this one in pretty comfortable time. As for what class mod to use on this build, again, when putting the build together, the easy option is the Trooper class mod. The Trooper class mod is very good. It rolls points in Meltdown, and Meltdown is the skill that you want on your class mod. Decoherence is a great secondary if you get like a good physicist. But Meltdown's better, and Trooper rolls Meltdown. You can also throw a grenade when you're doing your like rotation to get a bit of a bonus in the Trooper itself. So that's a very easy class mod to put together, to grab and put together for this build. However, the absolute best in slot will be a good Radiologist, which is a purple class mod that also rolls Meltdown, but gives you 3 beneficial passives rather than Trooper's 1, because ordnance damage isn't really going to help you. But getting a perfect purple class mod is a bit of a nightmare and not really something that's practical in doing. So if you are farming this build, just grab a Trooper with, 3-4 points into Meltdown at the very least. And it's also got some other decent skills in there, like Bright Future, for some extra fire rate, which you can never turn down. Yep, that's going to call it for this one. As always, build, gear, specialization at the end of the run after Child of Terror. For Child of Terror, his hitbox is at his base, so that's kind of where I aim for, to try and do high cal shenanigans. I don't really know if it works, but it's just something that I do, and it kills him, so yeah, and it's, again, it's all about getting as many of the adds into your Chroma Accelerator as possible, which is going to be a lot more difficult in Phase 2, so do try and do as much of his health bar as possible before he transitions phase. Often I will make sure I'm just getting a fresh Chroma Accelerator right at the end of his overshield bar and not pushing him into the red bar, because as soon as you push him to the red bar, that's when he'll start doing his phase and transition. So I make sure I get pretty close to that point, but not over it, just to give me time to set up a new Chroma Accelerator neutron capture rotation, to give myself as much time as possible burning down that red HEP bar before he dives underwater, because you have a lot less adds in Phase 2, and the ones that you do get are armored, which is less neutron capture damage. But yep, nothing really more to say about this run, just work your way through the mid-boss and all that, and it's just the same rotation, start to end. So, I'll catch you for 0 point. And now it's time for Blue Tree Harlowe. Last time, on the Subjugator and Thol video, I made you wait till the very, very end, but starting with Harlowe this time means she comes much sooner. And Blue Tree Harlowe, this was probably the most miserable run. It was not fun at all. This action skill is not an enjoyable action skill to use. The gameplay is messy, it just kind of does what it wants. The range is awful, the targeting is awful, the single target isn't good, and in mobbing specifically. Bossing, it's alright. The actual power level of this action skill is actually quite high compared to a lot of action skills. It's in a much better spot. It's just awful to play with. And bossing single target is actually very good, so long as you can reach said boss, which is going to become an issue at the end of this run. You can hit Child of Terror, and you can kill Child of Terror with just 0 point, but you can't deliver Groundbreaker, and you have to be in a very, very specific spot in order to reach, which just doesn't work. So I actually do a bit of a full-on gear swap for the Child of Terror, which is not what I wanted to do, but I would have lost my mind if I didn't. As for the build itself and how does it work? Well, we're using Falling Bodies, the capstone of Blue Tree, so we are heavily invested. And what that does is allows us to continuously, put new enemies into bubbles, which is important. And it also removes the need to be looking at an enemy. It will just find somebody. So long as there's an enemy in range, the consistency of, it being able to find an enemy to bubble is much higher. You do run into problems, though, is when you have an enemy bubbled, you can no longer target non-bubbleable enemies like the Bloodgills and mini-bosses. So if you're fighting a mini-boss and then it picks up a normal ad, you just kind of get screwed over and you have to just wait. In terms of what's doing the damage, the Plasmaphile class mod. Whenever you bubble an enemy with Plasmaphile, it'll do a chunk of damage, and basically spamming that, bubbling new enemies, doing the chunk of damage, then we can deliver it as Groundbreak to kill an enemy, so there's a lot of meleeing in this playstyle. And that is the rotation. And sometimes it goes kind of crazy, and everything dies. And sometimes you end up with a bunch of enemies bubbled, nothing left to bubble, and no way of doing any more damage, so you just kind of have to swap to a gun, like a Crowsourced, and do it the old-fashioned way, but on a build that's not very good with guns. So there's just a showcase of the targeting. It's trying to target the gun, but the gun can't be picked up, so nothing happens, even though I'm staring right at the enemy that I can pick up. Awful targeting. Awful action skill. Just do what I tell you to do, please. Oh well. When it goes right, and, you get a big old chain reaction, it's fun. Because Gearbox made the inertia augment built in. So whenever an enemy dies that's in the bubble, it seeks out a new enemy. Bubbling them, picking them up, doing the Plasmaphile damage. So if you've got a bunch of weak enemies, you could just go on a massive chain reaction where it bubbles an enemy, kills them, finds a new target, bubbles them, kills them, finds a new target, bubbles them, kills them. And you can do one manual activation and kill like 8 enemies, all in the span of about half a second. Really satisfying when that happens, and it does happen occasionally in this run, I think, but it doesn't really happen on command, it just kind of occurs. And it's so inconsistent. And with how much meleeing we're spamming, the amount of times it grapples something or picks up a barrel that I didn't want. Have I ranted up enough about how much I hate using this action skill? So right now I've got bubbled enemies, so I need them to go away in order to start bubbling Watchcraft. So I've still got bubbled enemies, so I just need to get through this action skill, have this action skill end. Now I can bubble Watchcraft. And you see, the damage, pretty good. Not horrible when we can just focus on a single target. Down he goes. So it's not horrible, it's just horrible to use. As for Child of Terror, you can target him, but you need to kind of be over the water to be in range. They really need to increase the range of this action skill. And you need to be targeting the base of his hitbox in order for it to work. And you do have to be closer than you think. And you'll do a chunk of damage to him. That started becoming much more impractical for me around Mayhem, 12, 13 and beyond. So what I do instead is I swap to a Scientist class mod, and then I use a Beam Tosser doing dots, and that kills him in very good time. So that you do have a powerful backup in case killing the bosses with the action skill is not practical. But we will be using Plasma File and the Bubble for Watchcraft and the mid-boss. They are fine. And yeah, moving through, 24 minutes left on the clock after Watchcraft Room. Power-wise, it's not that bad. There are action skills that feel a lot better than this one that are slower and not as powerful. Power-wise, it's in an alright spot. They just need to improve its usability now. The meme that Blue Tree Harlowe is the worst in the game is well and truly outdated now. I will say that Blue Tree has power level, and it's not just in this build either. You can do a Strange Attractor gun build, where you use the Strange Attractor augment, which is ricochets, use big splash stuff, and have shots going everywhere. You can do some fun things with the Suppress the Terror, and it's very, very powerful. And all credits go to Ezekiel in the Soup Kitchen Discord for basically trying to pioneer Blue Tree Harlowe and these builds. So them and WRW gave me a lot of information on how Plasma File and just the build worked in order to help put this together. It's not all me. Because yeah, it's not a fun action skill. I'm going to stop saying that this action skill isn't fun and call my commentary for Harlowe here. As always, the spec and the specialization and the gear will be shown at the end of the run after the Child of Terror, and then I will join you for the character afterwards. The most broken character of all time. Enjoy the mid-boss, and I'll catch you in a few minutes. And now onto our second character, Cash. Card Cash opening with, and well, I'm doing something a little bit different with this particular Cash run. So this was one of the last runs I did, and I still needed to get him to Mayhem 20. And my card Cash is not really built for the takedown. If you know the sleight of hand build, where I mainly just throw cards, it's very good, but it's slow in the takedown because of the way it just works. It throws cards at enemies one at a time, and whilst fireworks are very strong, it just wasn't too great for the takedown, and it really struggled versus Child of Terror. I think there might be something to do with like the left-hand card versus Child of Terror, something I read. Don't really know. In any case, I didn't really use it. However, you don't have to change much or anything to turn this into a very powerful gun build based off of Ratour's Gunboy flak. They're basically identical. I use the exact same gear. It's literally only 2 or 3 skills that you change around. It's still 59 points in Blue Tree. It's all the same. I swapped the Cowboy card for the Sweeten the Pot card. What Sweeten the Pot does is when you hit enemies, especially when full active, it'll do a bunch of different elements. Those bunch of different elements is doing action skill damage of different elements, which gives you a ton of stacks of Vigorish, which is a skill on the left-hand side of the tree. Whenever you do elemental damage with action skills, you gain a strong bonus element for your guns. This was why the main card throwing build was so good with fireworks, is because you'd be doing action skill damage with the cards, and then the fireworks from killing enemies would be so strong that would be your mobbing. And then, of course, I've also just changed the class mod as well, from the Ludopath to the Gamer for a bit more single target damage. You can run either. You don't need the Gamer, but you may as well. And yeah, so that's the build. You basically shoot everything until you get your action skill and Windfall is active, and Vigorous is about to run out. You activate your action skill. You throw cards until you throw your Sweeten the Pot card, which is like the kind of shiny looking one. That one. As soon as that's out, you've done all your elements, you put your cards away, and then you start shooting. And you can use Hot Slugger for basically everything in the game. I do use a Beam Tosser versus Child of Terror, but you don't have to. You can literally just use a Hot Slugger for everything. You can do some tweaks and work in COV weapons to get more of a broader array of weapons to use. But I didn't do that. That involves doing a bit of Green Tree or using a different class mod for Can't Stop Winning to activate Windfall, because Windfall activating with a COV gun is not a good experience. So you do need to make some tweaks to make that work. Otherwise, Hot Slugger, it's just such a fun weapon. Like, in terms of guns new to Borderlands 4, they cooked with the Hot Slugger. We love it. Anyway, earlier I said that this run was a little bit different, and why is that? It's because this gear is jank as hell. This is all just like, I didn't put a lot of time on this character leveling it, so I never really got good gear, and I never really transferred good gear to it, which is what I would usually do. I'm pretty sure I'm using a Hyperion enhancement that just has like good reload stats. I'm not even using like Leap or anything, so that's the only thing that makes this one different, is the gear isn't as good as it could have been, but it doesn't really matter. It's Cash, and this is easily one of the... I mean, you can say this about every Cash build. Easy to put together. This character is broken. But yeah, this run... The fact that what is essentially an action skill build, with barely any changes, can be an easier to use and put together gun build than Vex and Rafa. It's kind of sad that an action skill build is doing better gunplay than a dedicated gun build on a different character. Oh yeah, ammo does start becoming an issue by the time you get to the mid-boss, so just pick up a few boxes along the way and you'll be fine. The second half of the takedown is a non-issue, since the second half of the takedown is a bit shorter than the first half. Anyway, there isn't really much to say. Throw your grenades to proc alchemy, to get lots of fortune stacks, and this will mean you'll hit Windfall in a shorter amount of time when you're shooting and reloading your Hot Slugger. And something that I don't do enough this run is throwing my melee card, my melee override card, which you can do whenever you don't have your action skill active. This will basically zap nearby enemies with melee damage, and that melee damage will proc Groundbreaker. So my recommendation is to throw that into a group of enemies and then focus on killing a different group of enemies. And as you're doing that, the first group of enemies will just get killed by your repeating Groundbreaker card because it hits multiple times. And that's about it. In terms of the Hot Slugger, to get the most out of it, press the reload button. Don't let it reload automatically. You'll be waiting an awful long time doing that. So shoot, then press reload immediately, and that will get you towards your next shot much faster. Right, noticing my commentaries are about ending at the same point in the takedown on every character here. But yeah, just before the mid-boss. Enjoy the mid-boss, and I will join you for what will be the fastest run of the day. Catch you in a few minutes. And here we go. Gloam till glow cash in what will be 5 minutes. This character is so dumb, man. So I uploaded this a little bit ago as well. It was, so you might have already seen this run, and I do have a bit of a shaky start here in trying to get Gloam to activate, but after that it's all plain sailing. And, well, I get an opportunity to talk about why this build works, and there's that struggling start, there we go, how this build works, and what is actually going on. So, Gloam till glow. Gloam till glow, while Windfall is active, you can be replenishing your shield, and if you've got overshield, replenishing your overshield, sorry, when you have overshield, you can drain that to add a flat value to your guns. And this is like B-shield / old neutron capture. Every instance of gun damage you do gets this flat bonus. It's like a B-shield. And bonus elements can be a bit messy with it. However, nothing beats lead specifically, which is the convert element into kinetic damage. That plays very nicely. So that's the one that we maximize. So when using this build, do try and use an elemental version of guns to get a huge damage bonus. And as you can see, our damage is really, really stupid. How stupid? 4,000% gun damage stupid. And let's talk about that 4,000% gun damage number. How do we get there? Can we please normalize reading the skills on our action skills instead of just taking them? Can we start doing that, please? Angry Totems! Angry Totems, when they're alive, they give you 4% gun damage, I believe. I think it's that number. I need to read them, god damn it! Part of the problem. Yeah, they'll give you a stacking gun damage bonus so long as they're alive. So the goal is to keep them alive. I'm not summoning any more totems, because if I summon totems, it's going to replace my old totems, and that's going to reset my bonus. And what I just said there is very important. Shooting that Heimdall to give me a few delayed kills to replenish the health of my totems. You could see the health bars for a second there. If you go too long without killing enemies, your totems will bleed out and die, and you'll lose your bonus. So the movement speed in order to sustain that bonus is very important. And if you're not killing enemies constantly, they're just going to die. And they're just going to fall off. And I've had many runs where that happens, where they do fall off and die. So just be wary of that, and that is the main thing. This is not a glitch, it's not an exploit. There is an exploit that exists, or a glitch that exists, where totems can become immortal, and it'll stack for free without investment. That is not happening here. I don't know how to trigger that, but you can. I believe you can often identify it by the health bar itself just disappearing, but the totem staying alive. Those health bars are still there, and I've done this run enough to know that if I fuck up or spawns break and, you know, act delayed, they will just time out and lose. By this point, I think I have the full 999 stacks, which is 4,000% gun damage, 2,000% skill damage, and 2,700% melee damage. I also have Mighty 9 tough totems. This helps with my totem survivability. And that converts my gun damage into melee damage, so I'm getting that bonus as well, so it's a lot more than 4,000% gun damage. It really just stacks up to absurdity. The sniper rifle I'm using here is the Stealth and Seek with shotgun ammo. Unfortunately, Cash's ammo replenish pulls from reserves rather than being free like Harlowe, and so we do run out of ammo pretty quickly. We can't use the Stealth and Seek for the entire time. In terms of which one's better between Stealth and Seek and Stray, it's more so room dependent. I like Stealth and Seek for this room, especially since I can hit enemies behind that box. But then for this room, I swap back to the Stray. Even though I still had ammo left, the Stray's just better for this room, and basically for the rest of the run. Now, in terms of bossing, I use the Convergence for the mid-boss, just because it's got like good range and whatnot. And for Terror, I use the Bod. That's not because the Bod is like the best gun or anything, I just find it funny, because of how silly it is. I believe the best weapon is going to be a shotgun ammo complex route. Probably with Jacob's Ricochet. I'm not using that. I'm not on true mode. So I purposely didn't min-max that hard, even though this is pretty min-maxed. You have to be to be able to maintain those totem bonuses. If you can't maintain the totem bonuses throughout the takedown, that doesn't make it bad. You're still the most powerful character. Just be, just when the totems die, just spawn more. At the start of every room, just spawn more. And that way you can start building up a new set, and by the end of the room you might have a couple hundred, and that'll make all the difference. So just, at the start of every room, just spawn some new totems, if you're unable to keep them alive throughout the run, like we are here. And yeah, commentating to the end of the run, so I may as well close it out. Here's the bod. It's just a bit funny. It's not the best weapon for this, but I like it. And night-night. Such a silly, broken character. Having 7,000 or 8,000% on hit damage bonus at all times. Yeah, no, that's not ethical. That's not okay. There it is. Like, all of that is feeding into my damage, by the way. Not just the gun damage, the others as well. Like, it's so dumb. And then the gear, yeah. The most important thing is just, like, for bossing on this build, just farm a convergence. An elemental convergence is all you need. And that's bossing covered. And then for mobbing, try and get an elemental Heimdall. Covered. FOMOs don't matter. All that on-hit soup that I had, 50% from bruises is nothing. I've actually started thinking about Trick Shot. Trick Shot's not very good, but it's something. Yeah, Elemental Heimdall and an Elemental Convergence doesn't have to have any licensed parts. That is the base way into this build. Then grabbing a Wind Rider, a Super Soldier, basically good to go. So yeah, that is Gloam Cash, and I'll catch you for Crossfire. And rounding out Cash here, we have a Crossfire run. Crossfire is definitely more catered towards bossing rather than mobbing. I find Crossfire and mobbing quite jank. It's powerful, but quite jank. So it's not my favourite, and it was a bit of a clunky takedown run to 20, but it's very powerful. Now, I do make a notable change for the Crossfire run in the takedown versus just normal bossing. So normally in bossing, I use a Pistolier class mod with points in Brimstone, and Brimstone are very important to mass increasing your fire rate. And I will be swapping to it for the boss fights. However, one of the most powerful parts of Crossfire is the ricochets. I believe the ricochets that just come inbuilt with Crossfire are double dips, but they only occur when in Windfall. Windfall, you get a couple of seconds off at the start of your action skill, then it goes away. You've got no real consistent way of triggering it again. And those crossfires are so, those ricochets are so powerful. Not having those in mobbing would be a huge loss in power. So we need a way to consistently get Windfall in mobbing. And that is by swapping to a class mod that has Can't Stop Winning, crits equals Windfall, and getting rid of the Pistolier class mod. Which means our fire rate is a lot slower now, and it does not feel nearly as nice to play, but it means we can hold Windfall, and it means we can get those ricochets and improve our mobbing. And that's basically the core of the change. From here, it's all about making sure Desperado's active, making sure From Hell Follow With Him is active. That's up to 20 stacks. They do time out, they have a duration, so you need to make sure that you are re-upping that, maxing out the amount of fortune stacks you're getting by throwing some grenades periodically, and then reactivating Hell Followed With Him. I usually do that after reactivating Desperado. The durations somewhat line up, and that way I can keep my big fire bonus element and my rockets in tune together. And then I've talked about Burst Fire and the oddities on making sure Burst Fire is active. Every time you let go of the trigger, you have to wait a few seconds before reapplying. If you try doing everything too quick, you'll end up clicking and holding before Burst Fire can reactivate again, and you won't get the good fire rate. And when you don't have a Pistolier class mod, your poor default fire rate is very slow, and it just feels awful. So slow it down, be more purposeful in the bullet on the button presses, and make sure that you're not premature activating burst fire or Wretched Shadows, which I just did there. Wretched Shadows is very, very good. You can throw those out when Crossfire is not active, and same thing with cards as I mentioned before. Throw it into a group of enemies, then focus on killing a second group of enemies, and Wretched Shadows will just kill the first group for free with those Groundbreaker procs. And that's also very good in terms of bossing damage as well. Just throw it out in front of the boss. Trying not to hit the boss itself, it's very funky about what platform it can stick to without just disappearing. And here we go. Rotstrass, this is going to set my my damage rotation, so I swap to the Pistolier. Wretched Shadows, Grenade, Fish for Windfalls, Desperado, Burst Fire, and down he goes. He fought back a little bit there, but we cool. And now we go back to Gambler. Now it's very important to fish for Windfall before going into your action skill with the Pistolier class mod. And it does throw you off, because Gambler, you don't need to do that. The Gambler class mod will go into Windfall automatically. The Pistolier class mod will not. So there's a little bit of muscle memory you have to change up when swapping between the class mods. Not forgetting to fish for Windfall before going into your action skill is a mistake that I have made many times when bossing during the takedown. But yeah, the power is good. It's a bit clunky. It's not the fastest. In fact, this might be the slowest cash run, especially if you use a proper loadout on the card build. Crossfire is the slowest cash run through the takedown, but it's not slow by any means. And of course, Crossfire is still the king of bossing without needing much gear. So that's going to call it from me to Cash. I'm going to rest my voice for a bit, and I will join you for whoever I decide the next character is going to be. Up next, Red Tree Amon. Amon is so damn strong, and thanks to the Takedown itself giving us the Damned class mod, his general gun build is now, for me, really fun to play in mobbing. Traditionally, Amon is the bossing guy. You do a big damage rotation, and it does billions of damage, so the most amount of damage you can do in a single rotation. But that required hitting enemies with, your melee or a forge skill in order to detonate Force of Nature. It was very, very clunky. The Damned now basically automates that process, allowing you a much smoother mobbing experience. It doesn't involve you doing abilities onto every enemy you want to kill. And that has much improved this character, to the point where now you can start doing the, using just a wider variety of guns, including the kickballer here. The kickballer, well, that kind of sums up the kickballer and what the kickballer is capable of. It bounces around and goes crazy. How it works is very weird with Jacob's Ricochet. Like, Jacob's Ricochet isn't an extra kickballer projectile, it's actually just like a kinetic ball that doesn't even bounce. It's weird. In terms of actually figuring out how this gun really works, nobody truly knows the 100% specifics because of how difficult it is to test. But basically, each ball will bounce 5 times, I think. It'll last a certain amount of time before detonating, whichever happens first. And it's also doing some funky things with bonus elements, which allows it to create more balls. So, stack bonus elements, more balls, more explosions, more craziness. It can be inconsistent. Sometimes you'll fire it and nothing will happen, and sometimes you'll fire it and the entire room will explode. Best thing I found is to try and shoot at enemies' feet so it can bounce off of the same enemy several times. That's how I found it to be the most consistent. It's not the greatest at single target against single enemies, so this version has alt fire energy disc, which can help. Or you can just swap to a different gun. Now, for ease of use, Lockjaw is also very, very good for the takedown, but I just had to use the kickballer. The kickballer is a little bit better, and it's just crazy. Now, how does this Amon build work? How are we able to do what we're doing? How did I get my action skill back so fast there? And most importantly, how am I not instantly dying from all of... How am I not instantly dying from all of these crazy explosions? So, Amon, how's Amon work? How's going to build Amon work? Well, we use Red Tree with the Augment Force of Nature. Whenever we hit an enemy with Force of Nature, it gives us a prime stack on the enemy up to 10 stacks. Now, because Amon is actually a well-designed character with some love and attention, it's the 10 most powerful hits that it will count. It will actually go through all of your hits and take the 10 most powerful ones, not the 10 most recent ones. Very, very comfy quality of life there. Then, when you hit this target with a Forge skill or a melee attack, the melee attack is a weaker way to do this. Forge skill gives you the full power. The enemy will detonate, doing a large chunk of damage. And it's a skill damage. This can then lead into Raging Inferno. You can also now follow up with the Groundbreaker, get some really big hits in. And that is the core gameplay loop. What the Dam does is 10 seconds after using a Forge skill, which we're going to be spamming it more than that anyway, critical hits with guns will cause this pyre, which counts as Forge skill damage, which can detonate these triggers. So you do not have to use your Forge skill every time you're wanting these prime stacks to be detonated. You can just do it from shooting the enemy. And that smoothens out their gameplay so much. Now, in terms of the not dying front, well, Amon's got a skill called Forged in Steel. 6 seconds after using a Forge skill, you are immune to damage. It just has damage immunity, and that allows us to stay inside of the mass explosions of the Kickballer, and, well, allows us to not die. So, by spamming the Kickballer, 3 shots is safe before a Forge skill. However, if you're greedy and you got some fire rate bonuses, you can push 4 shots and maybe even 5 shots between Forge skill activations. The more, the better, obviously. But if you get too greedy, all it takes is 1 explosion, and you'll die. How do we spam the Forge skill so much? Well, Forge and Steel. Melee damage gives us a chunk of our Forge skill cooldown back. Now, the pyres that, the Damned class mod are creating is melee damage, so that's one source. We can also punch an enemy to get a chunk as well. However, the majority of our Forge skill return is going to be our Forge drones. Yes, we have Forge drones. They are very important to get those out as quickly as possible, and they will be giving us the majority of our Forge skills back. Forge drones are such great utility, and here they're providing our Forge skills, allowing us to keep our action skill up, allowing us to keep our Forge skills up, allowing us to do this in the first place. As for the action skill cooldown, we don't need caffeine here. We'll just use Stormcutter itself. Stormcutter, when you hit targets, it replenishes your action skill duration, it replenishes your action skill cooldown if it's not active, and it can also, help bring back its own duration as well. It does a bunch of stuff with Stormcutter. It's fantastic utility. Wish it did a little bit more damage, but also it's fine as is. Leaving enemies alive can be useful for utility, especially in boss fights like Subjugator and Thol, just so you've got an enemy to grind hits off of. And yeah, that's Amon. Now for bossing, Force of Nature, 10 stacks. So that screams High Caliber 3 Spread Launcher. And that's 10 hits. Kaboom. For peak bossing, you want to use a Furnace class mod for points in Raging Inferno. But the Damned is fine. You just lose a little bit of consistency. So yeah, it's all about just amp, making sure everything's active. Boom, like so. So there, I make sure I've got everything active. Then I made sure I had my Stormcutter ready to go before firing. Fire into Stormcutter, into melee follow-up for Groundbreaker, and that is your damage rotation. Amon, as I say, has the highest single target damage of any character in the game in a single burst. Obviously, Gloam sustained damage can eventually beat you out, but you need to be fully stacked up and in general, it's a lot more work to make that beat what Amon can provide. Amon's damage is absurd, and now you can deliver that damage, you know, moderately in mobbing, thanks to the Damned class mod. This build is utterly fantastic, mainly made by Sinfactor from the Soup Kitchen Discord. Most credit goes to them regarding the Damned and Kickballer. But yeah, I've been using it as my main gun Amon since it is so much fun. There's an annoying enemy there. But yeah, Kickballer, explode the world. So much fun. This gun was made for this character. Yeah, it was changed nearly on launch to stop it infinitely recurring. What we're seeing here is not the infinite recursion, but it still does very weird stuff with bonus elements. And again, knowing exactly what's going on is tricky, because trying to slow down footage and actually count what's going on is nigh impossible with this gun. Good luck if you're willing to try. It'd be useful information to have. But yeah, this is peak Amon, takedown mobbing. Can do true in like 12-13 minutes, maybe 11. I can't remember the exact time Sin got, or Lauren got. However, yeah, this is just a casual scaled run. With that, I'm gonna bow out for now until the next run, which will be either Crucible or Heavy Weapons, so I will catch you then.
defeat, you silly bastards!
And now on to Heavy Ordnance Amon, and I must admit, I must confess that this run is the only run today where I will be not using the skill tree's action skill for the skill tree run. I am not using Scourge here. This is heavy weapons, because heavy weapons is basically built for this activity. The Heimdall is just the takedown gun. And the reason why I'm not using Scourge is because Scourge builds, as I used in the Subjugator and Thol video, Scourge's entire thing is slow and steady, and unfortunately, slow and steady just isn't what you want when trying to get a platinum time. Is it possible? Maybe, but you'd need absolute perfect gear and then a perfect execution. It'd just feel wrong to even begin recommending that. So, Scourge versus Takedown is not something I see really happening for Mayhem 20. I would like to see Scourge getting some buffs. It's fine, but it's like, it's not super strong, and it's not strong enough to get these higher times, unfortunately. And in terms of a heavy ordnance build, Scourge is the last action skill I would use. I would use both Crucible and Onslaughter first, before considering Scourge. Yeah, Scourge has got the Firewall for the 25% damage mult, that's kind of it. But heavy weapon builds don't have any utility to sustain the duration or cooldowns for those. So you just be using it off of cooldown to get a relatively small bonus every now and again. And yeah, I totally could have just equipped Scourge, used it on cooldown, done this run because Heimdall, and gone, oh look, I did, a Scourge versus the takedown, but I would have felt a bit wrong and disingenuous because Scourge really just isn't contributing much, and as I say, the other two action skills would be contributing more. Onslaughter is best in slot for Heavy Ordnance Amon, using a Lamplighter class mod to sustain it, and this is going to give you fire damage from Scourge to proc Disco Infernus for extra fire rate, more Heimdalls, more better. However, a safer way of playing, because if you've played Heavy Ordnance Amon, you know the pain. An accidental mantle here, run out of ammo there, go down here, whatever. Your heavy weapon gets put away. And you're not Harlowe, you can't just use a strafe for a bit, or a trooper class mod. No, you gotta wait that long cooldown before you can start firing again. And that's awful. So that's why I use Crucible. Crucible, with the Tripwire specialization, allows you to spam your action skills. So long as you're on max charges, you'll never run out of charges, and this will just refund your heavy weapon back, allowing you to start firing again. Now, I am a few runs deep, so I'm getting better at not letting my heavy weapon run out, so I don't actually use Crucible that much this run, which would have put it to be about the same as a Scourge run. But it is nice to have that safety net. If I do go a bit overzealous on my shots, or I do accidentally mantle and put my gun away, I'm not going to be screwed out of my cooldown. And it also allows me to swap heavy weapons to the drop near for bossing, if I wish. Now, you don't need to use the drop near at all. The Heimdall will take you through start to end just fine. But, just a quick 1 second weapon swap to get a faster funnier kill. Drop near is a bit more dangerous to use because you got to be closer to the enemy and a bit more grounded to use it, whereas Heimdall you just kind of shoot the thing. But the drop near's damage is just so insane that it's hard to pass up. As for class mod, you've got 3 class mod choices for when you're not doing Lamplighter, and that's going to be Grenadier, Icebringer, or Cyborg. Cyborg's got the best fire rate with Endless Bombardment. It's also like the easiest to use to sustain your heavy ordnance, which is especially nice if you're using the Disc Jockey, which is your non-DLC mobbing option, for what it's worth. But for this content, you do want the extra damage of Icebringer or Grenadier, and I'm using Grenadier with a Kurayo heavy ordnance just to cover that shock and armor bar that is so prevalent in this content. And yeah, this is the damage of the drop near versus the mid-boss. They go down very quickly, very easily. Another benefit of Grenadier over Icebringer is you get the extra crit chance from the extra blackout points. So that is nice. Major downside of heavy ordnance Amon versus Harlowe is your guns aren't as good. There's a lot of overlap between... It's full overlap between Harlowe heavy weapon and a Harlowe gun build, whereas Amon it's just a completely different build entirely. So try not to go down. I'm using an Inscriber and Spread Launcher to try and get me up, but it is always a scary endeavor. Try not to go down. If you do go down, have lots of Heimdall shots in the air to pick you up. And then, best rep kit, I would recommend like a War Paint for bursts of fire rate. I'm using a Kill Spring here for safety, though I didn't really need it. And the rest of the gear doesn't really matter. Amp Shield, obviously, that's kind of it. I'm using a What's for Dinner here. And yeah, there isn't much more to say for Amon. In terms of clear rate, he's about on par with Harlowe. I can't remember which one is currently faster than the other, but they've been jumping back and forth depending on who's done the run the most recent, basically. They are very equally compared through the Takedown for heavy weapons between the two characters. Both pushing, 10 minutes on true, sub 10 on true. Just fine. It's the Heimdall. The Heimdall is so silly. The fact that it can shoot through walls and start hitting enemies in the next room occasionally, for the certain rooms where that's the thing in the Takedown, is just a huge boon. And you don't really have to aim the thing, you just shoot it in the sky and it will do the rest for you. Not much to left go into this run, only a few minutes. As I said earlier, the second half of the Takedown, much shorter than the first half of the Takedown. Better open up the lift room and get to Child of Terror. After this, well, we have Crucible. One of the tougher runs to get Platinum with, so don't miss that one. I'll catch you in a few minutes. And now onto Crucible. Crucible, one of the few just pure action skill builds that I have today. Crucible is so much fun. It's aggressive, high octane, just fast paced, and it's just the kind of like throw everything build. You just throw shit at enemies, whether it be hammers, grenades, axes. You just throw things. It's fantastic. Now I don't have the setup fully proper for grenades, because I didn't have enough specialization points for fragmentation payload, and grenades don't feel too great without fragmentation payload, so I'm going to be more throwing my hammers. And there's a few grenades there. And you might see, yeah, how am I able to spam hammers this aggressively whilst not really using my rep kit all that much? Obviously I'm using it occasionally, like there, but you don't really need to use your rep kit a lot, because Forge drones are actually what recovering our action skill so quickly. Yeah, both the Red Tree Gun, Amon, and Crucible are just made by Forge drones now, and without Forge drones, I don't think this would be able to plan them. What they're doing is they're going around hitting things, of course, melee hits, which is giving us our Forge skill back, cool. But with the honed point skill at the end of the tree, their hits are also replenishing our action skill cooldown, and because this is a stack skill as well, you got 3 stacks, it's recovering a lot. So now we don't need to use the Viking class mod to increase the amount of stacks we have and make caffeine better. No, the Forge drones basically act as our own now with caffeine every time they start hitting enemies. And this has just elevated this build to be so much fun. You're just constantly throwing hammers, and if you have not played a Crucible build, I highly recommend it, because especially outside the takedown, it is just one of the most fun ways of playing this game. It's so much fun. In the takedown, however, due to the just pure enemy spam, and the fact that you're kind of throwing hammers one at a time, enemies one at a time, we've got some good radius, and you can definitely collect enemies together, but in general, it is just kind of slow. This is the joint slowest run of the day. However, I do lose a bunch of time to an enemy not spawning properly. It's one of those annoying rail liners too. I hate them so much. So, it's not the fastest, unfortunately. But that said, it is one of the few pure action skill builds today. Like, most builds are like gun supporting, or they have other means of doing damage, like mixologist on cannons, or blood rifts on trouble. Spoilers. Crucible's just here, and it's doing great, and we love Crucible. So my first run, my first attempt, I saw that it had the pace, so it was just kind of like getting the run. So I did choose a few strategies that were more for consistency rather than pace. For example, I stay with hammers during the mid-boss, even though swords and the Storm Surge Clapstone would technically be better damage-wise. I stay with hammers just because the Storm Surge Capstone, when you throw it out, it covers an area, and if the boss leaves that area, then it's no longer going to be triggering your detonations, and that's a huge damage loss. So I just stay with hammers, and stay with the no capstone, so I can just forge skill away, 1 detonation, done. Hammers, you're not throwing them fast enough to hit your prime stacks. You can see them stacking up there, about 7. 10 is your maximum. So if you're throwing hammers after hitting 10 stacks, they're not going to really contribute to the detonation, so there's kind of no point doing it. That's why when we do bossing on this build, I will often use swords. But swords hit a lot, so we swap to Storm Surge, which constantly detonates. So yeah, we do use 2 different augments: hammers for general mobbing and, you know, Watchgraph and the open and the mid boss. And then for Child of Terror, I swap to swords and Storm Surge because they're much better persistent DPS, and Terror doesn't really move around. But because I'm not changing to swords, which they absolutely should be, this fight's going to be a little bit slower than what it could be. So there is a lot more pace to be had. I just kind of wanted to get the run consistently. So yeah. Crucible, mobbing hammers, bossing swords. swap between, and then occasionally throw grenades because kabooms. But yeah, they're not doing too much for me, unfortunately. And yeah, you can use Storm Surge in mobbing just so you've got like an area getting ready for detonations, but I found the way I was playing that wasn't really benefiting me. I was kind of working with Girthquake in getting this platinum, and Girthquake found that Storm Surge was better for him, so it just kind of depends. Try it. I prefer to run no capstone. One major thing in clearing quickly with hammers is trusting the dot. So Amon's like the dot character, right? And hammers, their action skill damage, which means they'll be proccing Raging Inferno. A crit with our action skill will do a big damage over time. Dot. And you just gotta trust it. Throw a hammer at an enemy. Don't keep throwing hammers until the enemy dies. Don't wait to see if the dot kills them or not. Just throw and forget. Find the next enemy. Unless you absolutely know it's not killing them. Just whenever you throw a hammer, just look away, start throwing hammers at a new enemy, and just trust that the dot will kill them. If not, you can always go back to them. So whenever throwing a hammer, I will always glance at my radar, try and find where my next enemy is, and just immediately throw one at them, and I can always go back to the first enemy if the dot didn't proc or they survive. You don't want to be wasting time confirming your kills or throwing hammers against enemies that are already going to die. You don't have time for that. Just find the next enemy and go. So that's Crucible. This was one of the more difficult platinums, but it also is one of the more satisfying ones, and Crucible is just one of the most fun ways of playing. It is great. I cannot stress enough how much fun this is. Ancient Rune is the creator of the build that this is based off of. They did a really good job in making these work, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, that's Amon. For what it's worth, Crucible should get a lot better with level 70, especially in the takedown, because we're likely going to go into Berserk, and Berserk is just good upfront damage, so a bit more chunkier, and especially good versus crystals as well, which normally can't be dotted, so that'll be nice. Yeah, enjoy the rest of this run. Character 4, and it's Rafa, starting with Peacebreaker cannons. Now, I already have a gun build with Peacebreaker cannons on the channel with the Sniper Rafa build that I uploaded a while back, 12.5 minutes. If you want to see that, it's already posted. This is going to be the Peacebreaker cannon build, which I've posted afterwards, which I didn't have Mayhem 20 unlocked when I made that video. Well, now I do, and I've done several runs. And here we go with this version. Now, I'm using the Instigator today. Now, I've done this with an Agent class mod, a Bombastic class mod, an Instigator class mod, autocannons, and Beam Team. Basically, they all work. Doesn't really matter. Beam Team was nice for consistency. It also had really good uptime. Beam Team with the Instigator class mod also leaves you with a lot of gun damage, which is great for when you're shooting your beam tosser against the mid-bosses. However, not doing that. I like autocannons. That's what I used in the original video. Autocannons are satisfying, and they have a little bit more upfront DPS as well when they are targeting an enemy, so we'll be using autocannons today. And the Instigator class mod is a lot easier to farm than the Bombastic. The Bombastic was kind of like a best case scenario, whereas the Instigator being guaranteed to roll action skill duration just makes it so much comfier to farm for. And then the skill points are tough, always going to be good as well. Because the skill points are Deft Hands, which is fire rate, which is good. Fire rate that applies to your cannons. And what was the other one again? Oh no. Concentrated Build-Up, which is a bonus element, which is why I'm ADSing today. That said, that bonus element does not source inherit, so it's not going to proc a fresh mixologist. It will, however, ride on top of your mixologist, so it's still good damage. And if you don't know how this build works, it's not actually action skill damage, even though it's the cannons shooting enemies and them dying. What we're doing is using the Marlowe enhancement mixologist, which is 10% of your gun's damage in the element of the secondary fire mode, on top of every source of gun damage you do. It's kind of cursed, really roundabout, so like every bonus element that's gun damage, it applies to that as well. So it's all about stacking bonus elements. So the shotguns are multi-pellets, each of those pellets have got multiple bonus elements, and each of those proc their own mixologist. We're holding a beam tosser that does 40-odd thousand damage, so 10% of that is 4,000, times however many per shot. It's weird. Borderlands gonna Borderlands. And that is how we can make cannons do damage in endgame. And this is the build that I use. So I've been doing some one-life runs, which is starting from level 1, and then beating the game and the post-game without a single death. This is the build that I used. It took a little bit to farm the beam tossers, but otherwise, this is the easiest Rafa build to put together, because most Rafa builds will be farming beam tossers anyway. And that's basically all you need. Instigator, whatever roll. Watchcraft here, I do shoot a couple of beam tosses, just for some extra damage, just to speed it up a little bit. The big single target enemies are where this is going to struggle the most. General bossing, it's fine, but Takedown Mayhem 20 bossing is it starts to struggle a little bit. Especially the mid-boss. The mid-boss is the most dangerous fight for this. So I go down there. Thankfully, this has got a really good fight for your life. Because so many stats don't really apply to mixologists, we don't need gun damage, we don't need riddle, we can run fight for your life safety skills like I've forgotten the name of it. The top left one that only needs 1 point in Survivor. It's completely escaped me. It's really good though. It gives you a huge duration increase on your fight for your life and fully replenishes your health when you get out of fight for your life, which is really good for avoiding those chain downs, which you often get in this game. How have I... Sturdy stuff! There we go. Good. I'm too high for this. Anyway, yeah, so we can run sturdy stuff. We have the freedom for that. In terms of damage bonuses, there really isn't that much that applies to this. In the original video, I used the Bruiser firmware for 50% all damage, which on multi-kills. And that's going to apply to the Mixologist procs and the dots as well. Very good, but also quite difficult to get. What I used in the One Life and what is probably ultimately better is using 2 points of high caliber and 1 point of active fire. They give you the on-shot gun damage, which applies to your card, which applies to your mixologist. And the same goes for your enhancement passives. If you can get gun damage and shotgun damage, that's ideal, as well as equip speed if you can. Equip speed is really nice if you're having to swap a lot. But for this, because I have a shock bonus element in concentrated build-up, I'm just using the corrosive beam tosser and not really changing based on health bar. There's too many health bars to be doing that. Also, in terms of enhancement, in the video I used just Mixologist because I was using the green rarity one just to show how easy it was to put together. However, best in slot is going to be a legendary with Mixologist and Transfuser. Now, never take Transfuser without Mixologist. You can only really use Transfuser as a legendary on this build, because you need a Mixologist, obviously. But what Transfuser's going to do is whenever you kill an enemy with a dot, and the dots do get very strong with this, it will transfer the dot to a new enemy. And the dot damage on the new enemy will be based on the gun you're holding, which is a Beam Tosser, which is the strongest dot weapon in the game, if it's on a Stellium. I think it being on a Stellium matters. I'm not sure if the Beam Tosser is fully separate and it doesn't matter, but typically Stelliums have much higher dots than Vertexes, even if the base damage isn't so different. Rambling, those are the kind of build changes and build enhancements that you can do over the original video, just tweaking the firmware a little bit to be a bit easier, and the legendary enhancement with Transfuser to give yourself a little bit more mobbing. You don't need it, but it does increase the pace a little bit. Now I'm jumping into the mid-boss here, and the mid-boss is easily the toughest fight in the game for these cannons. You can run, beam tossers. Obviously, if you're using Beam Team, you'll have a ton more gun damage. If you're using Bombastic class mod, you'll have First Impression and Extra Metal Management, if they fix that, please. He goes down. Gilgathresh is tougher because he's constantly running at you. But yeah, because cannons aim themselves, you don't really have to do that. So your main focus for this fight is going to be on movement and making sure you don't die. Enemies infinitely spawn in this fight now, so it's a bit easier to get up. Just be very careful not to fire your final beam tosser shot. Do try and always have one in the mag, because if you do that, your fight for your life damage is your cannon damage is going to fall off a cliff. So when shooting this away, be careful not to fire too many times. And after killing Tidebreaker, I immediately go to Crack Claw, because Gilgathresh is going to chase me. And when I'm firing Beam Tossers, I can try and get a bit of a lineup. It's really messy. It's not clean. It's all going to be on your movement. So just prioritize that. Prioritize staying alive over trying to do damage, because your cannons are going to do damage constantly anyway. And down he goes, finally, plain sailing from here. And Child of Terror is fine. Child of Terror gets destroyed by Beam Tossers. So yeah, you'll be fine there. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your run. And I think it's Arc Knives next. Post-nerf Arc Knives. That's a fun one, so I'll catch you for that one. I lied. I thought it was Arcanized, but it was actually Lance. Lance Rafa, or the more powerful way of doing Gun Rafa. Unfortunately, Lance on its own for damage just isn't very good. You can mob with it in, non-takedown, and you can even boss with it, but it's quite slow. Its main use is for buffing guns, and the separation between Lance and cannons is when charging it, you gain an on-shot gun damage bonus that's actually quite big and chunky. One of the main downsides of Lance is it absolutely murders your gun handling, and I swear that negative gets worse when you're charging it, which is why I hold off of charging it immediately. There we go, now I'm getting the damage bonus. Yeah, your handling drops in the bin. And the reason why I waited a ton at the start with my action skill draining is because the longer my action skill is active, the more of that handling I can claw back with the El Centro skill. Stacks to 99, so I just let that stack up a little bit because the Lockjaw is already a gun with poor handling and awkward to use. Anyone who's used the Lockjaw knows it's just not a very nice weapon to use. But when you got loads of handling, it's actually not too bad, which is what we've got here. So I was just waiting for Centro to build up, really, and now we've got good damage. This build, I didn't really do it the justice it deserves, because this is not how I never liked Lance. It's very clunky to do this. I like occasionally ADSing and whatnot. I don't really enjoy it, so Reza is much, much better than me at this build. This is his build. Offhanding Lance for some extra damage is Reza's thing, and Reza's currently got a true Mayhem 20 run with this build that is faster than the Vex gun build runs. So officially, Rafa's gun build is faster clearing than Vex's. That's not a good sign, is it? Given the given that Gun Rafa build is currently known for struggling at the minute. I do think both of them need a little bit of help, especially with what else exists in this game. But we've got the damage, and, between a charge bonus into big hit into Groundbreaker Slam, you can one-shot basically anything in the game. I'm not as good at that rotation, so my bid boss will probably be a little bit uglier than what Reza pulls off in his true run, but we make it work. My gear isn't quite as perfect as his, but I did that intentionally because this is only scaled, not true. And yeah, it's going to be holding down the charge whilst we shoot things with the lockjaw. That was very difficult. So much muscle memory of when you stop shooting at an enemy because you've killed them, you let go of both triggers, right? If you've got them held, you just let go of them and find the next target and then pull them again. You do that with Lance, you fire it off and you have to do this. Very annoying. And then you start with 0 accuracy again and 0 handling and it just completely kills all of your everything. Only this time it was actually intentional, because I wanted to reset my gun handling, slow projectiles, better beam tosses. So now what I'm doing is I'm charging, firing, grappling to cancel the charge, rinse, repeat. A bit of an awkward down here. Get that second wind. This isn't the cleanest watchgraph kill, as I say. I didn't really do this the justice that I wanted. It's very, very messy, but I get it over the line. This build is capable of so much more. It's just that I've played offhand Lance like once at launch, and I always just went to cannons because it was easier. Yeah, I think that handling on the Swan Song, I definitely think the handling reduction, it makes sense from like a building from a blank slate idea. It's like, oh, more damage, it's left hand, but like Rafa's got an exosuit. Can't the exosuit like handle the brunt of the extra recoil of one-handing guns? Like, I would have thought that would make sense, right? Like, yeah, you're one-handing the gun, but you've got this robotic exosuit. Like, Vex doesn't lose handling when in Incarnate. Harlowe doesn't when she's doing whatever she does, although she's got gravity, so I guess that's her explanation. Vex is magic. Rafa's got an advanced exosuit. Like, come on. Why do our guns feel like shit when using this action skill? Thankfully, this action skill has slightly longer duration than cannons, so it's easier to sustain, and it's easier to get more centro stacks to recover that handling and turn our guns into laser pointers, which is what we've done. As for guns, well, scaled, you can use you can use the Golden God. You can do this exact build by using the Golden God that I've shown in the past. But for true mode, you'll probably want to advance towards the Lockjaw, as the Lockjaw was built for the Takedown. Literally, they added it with the Subjugator and Thol raid boss, so it was probably built for the Takedown in mind, and it's really, really good here. So that's what I'm using today. Jacob's Ricochet is mandatory, and then try and get the Leaper enhancement, Jacob's enhancement, for just extra Ricochet consistency. I occasionally swap to the Swan Song, just for a bit of burst DPS, whenever needed, but for the most part, the Lockjaw gets the job done, even single target, because, you know, Lance, it's giving you over 100% gun damage, which is getting 50% of that is getting converted into skill damage and re-added, and then it's giving you over another 100% on shotgun damage to all of that, to multiply the previous set. So Soldado, charging Lance, lots of damage, and yeah, that whole thing is how Rafa gets damage. You get lots of gun damage, you convert half of that into skill damage, and reapply it through the Vitriol skill. Making Rafa good is all about making sure you're using Vitriol, whether it be through a COV weapon like I'm doing here, or one shot after a reload, or using ammo regen, or using Bullet Buddy Deluxe. This is what I mean. So, executed properly, each of these bosses die in a single shot. I could not get my Slam Groundbreaker to hit. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but this is hideous. But it goes to show, even if you completely whiff your execution, you can still get the job done. And basically what I'm doing is I'm charging Lance, I'm firing my spread launcher, and then ground slamming to cancel the Lance charge, which allows me to recharge it, which triggers metal management, like what I was doing versus Watchcraft earlier, which gives me the free shot. without consuming ammo. Rinse, repeat. And of course, the slam delivers Groundbreaker as well. So that was an absolutely horrible showing, as is just this run. But, you know, it's powerful enough to get over the line in a comfortable amount of time. And yes, this time is true. Next run will be post-nerf Arc Knives. Running out of Rafa builds. So, see you in a few minutes. and arc knives, post-nerf arc knives as well, and yeah, it's fine. We have to do a few tweaks, but it's fine. So I start the run here, I fire off a support drone. This just stacks all to the and gets things rolling a little bit quicker. Not important. And yeah, well, things are dying. It's fine for true mode. It's technically the Child of Terror boss is easier on true mode. So major difference is what changed is per my last got changed from being a double dip to a bonus element. This hurt. We don't take that skill anymore. This gutted Lance. Poor Lance has caught 2 big nerfs that were directed at arc knives. 2 per my last nerfs. They keep trying to nerf arc knives by nerfing Lance's best skill. Anyway, arc knives. So the main difference is it takes longer to stack up the Groundbreaker Alter Cabron with. Your Groundbreaker damage does not stack up as quickly. And because we no longer have Permine Last, non-arc knife damage is now much worse. So our Sparky Shield is much worse. And before, what I would do is I would launch a Beam Tosser, then drop into arc knives, stack up my Alter Cabron, then the Beam Tosser would hit the target with the full Alter Cabron stacks with Permine Last double dip and just annihilate the boss. That's what I did in the past. Can't really do that anymore because I don't have Permine Last to annihilate the boss anymore. So our bossing is a little bit different. And what this also means is it's now much more difficult to kill bosses that are tricky to hit. Because our damage comes from looping Groundbreaker, which gets stronger and stronger and stronger every time we hit, we need lots of constant hitting. Which means if you've got a boss that's hard to hit, like Oppressor, anything flying, Big Subjugator, or Child of Terror, it gets a bit awkward. And the nerf has mainly hurt the fights that Arc Knives were bad at, without really affecting the fights that Arc Knives was good at. Great change. Oh well. I'll get balance changes right eventually. So yeah, if you do lose your stacks there, I say stacks, if you do lose your Groundbreaker, it just takes a little bit longer to start stacking the damage up again. So you need to make sure that you're hitting an enemy at least every 5 seconds. You'll see during the mid-boss fight later, as I'm going to the final boss, I detour to hit a small ad, just to make sure that I'm not losing my Groundbreaker, it stays stacked up, because Crackclaw especially, you want to be one-shotting him. If you don't, his mini crabs are going to get you and they're going to down you, and Fight for Your Life is not this build's friend. You do not want to be in Fight for Your Life. So make sure you're building up your Groundbreaker with the other 2 mini-bosses and any ads in between, so you can just go in, one-shot Crackclaw, and move on. Because without that one-shot, it gets tricky. And the same will be true for Child of Terror. Child of Terror, if he hits phase 2, you have a bad day in that you can no longer kill him. Because even if you fly out and get the precise hit, you can only hit him once, and you don't have Groundbreaker stack, so it's not going to do any damage. And then you'll hit the water, and then it'll take you out of Arc Knives, and then you'll just kind of die. And you've got nothing to stack Groundbreaker against, because the only enemies in that arena, in Phase 2, are Witnesses, which are airborne, and there's like 2 of them. You can't do damage to Child of Terror in Phase 2. If you hit Phase 2, it's often better to just kill yourself and try again. Only if you get him super low in Phase 1, and you can finish him with the Beam Tosser strat that I mentioned earlier. So I do some healing drones, find my Beam Tossers, activate Arc Knives, the healing drones stack Alter Cabron, and then it hits. It's not good, but it's the best you can do. Child of Terror is all going to be about getting the one shot, so you just farm up all the ads, fly out, hit him once, and hope he dies. Or use a Reaper class mod with the little stormy things, hang about in the middle of the arena, and when Child of Terror slams, the storms can hit Child of Terror and kill him. That strategy is easier on true mode versus scaled, This is scaled. That strategy didn't really work for me, so you'll see the strategy that I did. Speaking of class mods, I'm swapping to the Reaper Saurian here. Reaper Saurian is just nice for bossing. It creates these storms which like build up, which build up Groundbreaker quickly. There they are. They're good. You don't really need to do the swap. You can also just play purely with this as well. You don't have to use the class mod I had previously. Reaper Saurian's good. See that? I killed that enemy there just to make sure I have Groundbreaker active, so I can do a big chunk versus the Crackdwarf. As for the class mod I'm using, is the Practitioner class mod, which gives me 5 points in El Corazon, which is the shield capacity skill. And this is how I recover my Sparky shield damage. The Sparky shield, it does more damage the higher your shield capacity, so that's why we want turtle pots on it, and this just increases it even more. Not really necessary on scaled, more of a thing for true mode, but of course if you don't have a perfect Sparky shield, then you know a good practitioner can help with that and give you a bit more capacity. Unfortunately, shield capacity rolls in class mod aren't very good. It's a flat value and not a percentage value, so not great when you're going for the super high numbers. I just go for action skill duration. Both of these, with action skill duration, Huega points. Reaper Saurian rolls Huega as well for action skill restore on crit. Both of those will allow you to just keep your blades going throughout. You won't really need to jump out of the action skill. No benefit to that, it's just satisfying doing the entire thing on one duration. In terms of consistency in getting Arc Knives to hit, how many times have you been in a situation like that where you're kind of aiming at an enemy, you swing, you fly next to the, fly through them, don't hit them, you do that like 4 times in a row, and you just look like a bit of a clown? Even though your body goes through them, you have to really make sure your crosshair is on the target and it's like red. If you try and jump the gun, it flies past them. It's not perfect, but it is more consistent if you really make sure your crosshair is on the enemy. Even though it looks a little off-centered in relation to the character. That's just what you have to do, otherwise Arc Knives gets a bit confused. And when you get the chains down, it's very satisfying. Yeah, that's Arc Knives. This is a sub-10 run, which I was very happy with. Under 10 minutes. Not as good as it once was, but it's still very, very powerful. And for action skills being the core of the build and damage, this is the most powerful one, or the one with the fastest clear. And it is just the most powerful one. It's to kill things directly, this is the most powerful action skill in the game, still. Who would have thought? So yeah, enjoy the rest of the run, not much longer to go, and then I will join you for the final character in Vex, who needs some help. Trouble, trouble, trouble. Trouble sucks. Trouble is not good, and is definitely not good enough to do anything in the takedown. So, what we're going to be doing is using Trouble to spawn Blood Rifts. I'm using the Configuration class mod, which drops on the Mad Ellie DLC, and basically whenever you summon an action skill or do a Trouble command skill, it summons these rifts that then shoot projectiles against enemies. These do good damage, because they use the base damage of the weapon that's in your hand, so we just use a strong underbarrel like a Sunspot Energy Burst, or an Assault Rifle's Airstrike, or Shotgun's Knife Launcher, any of those. Bigger number better. And we just go around spamming Violent Outburst. We use Violent Outburst because it doesn't have a cooldown, you can just spam it. And whenever you need a new Blood Rift. They don't have good durations, so you do have to spam it a lot, which means you don't really have time to swap to another weapon to start doing things, which is a shame. I think that if their duration was a bit longer, it would help the interactivity of the build, but it is basically just stand around and watch your Blood Rifts do stuff. If you've got Groundbreaker, I guess you can punch some things. I should have really done that, but I didn't. This is a Blood Rifts game. The main thing is Trouble not dying, because if Trouble dies, you can't explode Trouble. So you have to spam rep kits and get them back. So that's something that's going to happen a few times. Thankfully, hasn't died yet this run. Yeah, we're just going to be using Blood Rifts. It's not fast, but it's incredibly easy. Very uninteractive, just kind of like, just the main thing you gotta focus on is being in a good position when you summon your Blood Rifts, so the Blood Rifts have got good line of sight on the enemies. That's the main thing you gotta do. Here, I hoped I could just aura walk through, but they walked around the corner. So I had to go back and summon another one. See, their damage is fine. We also have Deadwire, so whenever we hit, we've got a chance of firing off this big shock or projectile that double dips. Very powerful. That's that hits very hard, and that's the advantage of going the Trouble side. This build does not need Trouble. You can do it with Spectres, and there you get Harrow Specs, Knives, and Groundbreaker, and Reverberations, and it's all great. But you can't really summon your Spectres, you just, like, cancel them. Whereas here with Trouble, we just spam Violent Outburst, had to resummon him there, his duration ran out, and we go. We don't do anything different for boss fights, we just let our Blood Rifts kill the enemies. You can throw some crit knives for some extra crit chance. Vex does have the worst crit chance of any character in the game, and crits are important on Vex as well. The most crit reliant character and the character with the worst crit chance. Thank you, Gearbox. Typically, at least what I notice when doing Subjugator and Thal, they tend to target enemies that you're looking at more. Whether or not that's true, I have no idea, but that just seemed to be what was happening during the Subjugator and Thal fight. It was very consistent. It would always attack the boss that I wanted it to. So I guess keep that in mind when there's a lot of enemies around. Although, you know, typically in this bit of content, you need to kill everything anyway. So mainly something that's important for the mid-boss. So yeah, now it's just focus on staying alive, focusing on Trouble staying alive, and spawning Blood Rifts in the correct location. And I don't think there's anything more to say here. Like, that's just kind of it. Yeah, throw knives so you get big hits, big bleeds, big dead wires that attack the wrong enemy. Yeah. Enjoy. I'll see you with Incarnate. Incarnate. Incarnate also sucks. Yeah, I mean, it had a glimmer of hope with the Collector Shield and Iron Maiden, but then they nerfed that. So, it wasn't destined for a Mayhem 20 takedown anyway, 2 RNG on the damage, but it was fun. But then they stopped the Collector from dropping as a super high capacity, and then they announced the level cap, so any existing Collectors will just end up being irrelevant. Oh dear. Why did they do this? Anyway, we can still use Incarnate for support. It's not a lot of support. As a support gun build action skill, it probably does the least out of the many. It occasionally reloads our gun for us, which is nice. Which is extra nice with heavy weapons, actually. And we will be using that for bossing, because drop near hurts. We'll be using some drop near. You can also do Heimdall, but Heimdall and just low mag guns in general are very awkward to use with Incarnate. So there you typically use Desecration. But Desecration is 10 entire skill points into skills that aren't very good. I don't want to be doing that. So no Heimdall for Vex today, and Vex is really bad with Heimdall anyway. It's orders of magnitude slower than Cash, Amon, or Harlowe. So I will not be Heimdalling. I will instead be using Crowsource and Lockjaw. I did consider using Oh My God, but Oh My God does start falling off at the very high Mayhems, like 18, 19, and 20, so we're Lockjawing. And this ended up being a pretty decent run overall. The thing is with Vex is her power level isn't that high. She gets a lot of good PR thanks to Bleed, Reverberations, and Groundbreaker Power specs, carried by Groundbreaker. But Bleed was robbed by Cash and is RNG, which makes it awful with skills with her poor crit chance. And then her just overall damage is just lower than the other characters, unfortunately. I hope she gets some buffs, but one thing that Vex is very good at is being very easy to play, and also being very weapon versatile, with the fact that most of her damage comes in a kinetic bonus element. You can use basically any gun you want, even if it's mismatching elements, because you get that chunk of kinetic. And she's very tanky. She's got lots of lifesteal. She's basically the tank character. She's got fight for your life saves, aggro relief, and all that. So, and she kind of feels good to play. Like, you don't get these auto crits and everything. It still feels like you're playing a game. So I do enjoy Vex a lot. She feels almost like the most balanced in kind of way, in where power level should be, and characters like Cash just take it too far. Which is definitely not wrong. So yeah, here comes Dropnir, and Dropnir, so damn good. What a disgusting weapon. And yeah, so Vex by no means. I'm not trying to say Vex is bad. She just feels kind of right. I am having to swap here to Crowsource for single targets, but that's fine. Crowsource is great. I like it a lot. And onto these enemies. Lockjaw, built for the takedown. I said earlier when I was using it on Rafa. Now this run's going to be faster than my Rafa run, because I'm, of course, very familiar with Vex and not familiar with Peacebreaker Cannons on Rafa. Peacebreaker Cannons? Purpose Lance on Rafa. It's a lot easier to play. She's got good weapon handling skills as well. She's got easy access to good reload speed bonuses, critical hit damage and weapon handling in a tier 1 skill. Like, she makes guns feel good. She's got skill tree mag size, which I'm spec'd into right now, which is nice. Like, she just makes guns feel really good. So, as a gun build, KSVB here, Kill Skill Vex build, is my favorite. It's the build that I kind of started the game with, and just general Siren gun build, similar to BL3 and Amara and Hellzerker. KSVB with Vex. Don't think it quite has the source that Hellzerker had, but it's good. And there isn't really much to talk about in terms of how to do this. Technically, we'd be better off using crit knives for badasses and whatnot, and just doing a quick swap to drop near for bossing, but I didn't really care to do that. Also, the mid-boss, Gilgathresh especially, loves to absorb damage, which is very annoying with Incarnate, Witchy Trigger Finger, and trying to reload your gun, mainly with heavy weapons. So you do need to be careful. Make sure your Incarnate is hitting a target. You do have to be, you have to hold back your firing of the drop near to not run out of ammo. Otherwise, you're down a Crow Source. And Crow Source is fine, but it doesn't quite have the oomph that Drop Near has. It's Drop Near and any other weapon. It's night and day trying to use anything else to kill the bosses. So really don't mess it up, and make sure you are getting that ammo refill. And the Desecration Capstone, as memey as it is, does help. It drops a hazard which counts as action skill damage. It triggers Richie Trigger Finger and your mag refill. But as I said, the 10 skill points to get it, I for the sake of one enemy, I decided to just hack it out and just go for a run where speed and go for a run where he didn't eat my damage and it went well, which this run did. It went all right. So we take those as we approach the mid boss here. I suppose I'll hang around until after the fight, kill these last few enemies here. The badasses do like to hang about. That's where the Crow Source swap's good. Having a bit of a quick speed helps with that as well. And on to the mid-boss. And this is all about just counting your shots. We do have points in phase pockets. We got 20 in the mag there, which is very comfy. And, you know, that damage is gross. Get some kill skill stacked. And here, just making sure these hit. I actually hit the ad there, which was very fortunate. Get some fire rate. Hopefully we get our heavy weapon back before action skill ends. Unfortunately, action skill does end, which is bad. Oh no, I was too slow. Rip me. So we'll just have to Crow Source them to the end. And yeah, rep kits on Vex. Yeah, I could be getting my action skill back already if I had a triple bypass with caffeine. And that would speed that up. But Vex is the character who can spam rep kits the most. With guns and needles, fantastic skill, you can have 100% uptime on a rep kit effect. So it just feels wrong to not use Warpaint on Vex. It's not great for getting your action skill back, and a couple of times in this run I am kind of stuck without an action skill. Especially if you go down, you lose Incarnate, which is annoying. But the Warpaint is just so good, it feels wrong to not use it. You could use a triple bypass or even an order rep kit with 2 beneficial bonuses or just a DPS stat to go kind of in the middle. That way you've got a more spammable rep kit for the purpose of caffeine, but also giving you damage bonuses, just not as good as Warpaint. You can do that, meet in the middle, that works. But I'm going Warpaint, great burst DPS for bossing, which is what we need. Good for opening fights. I try not to spend too much time, wasting too much time using the rep kit, because the rep kit animation is very slow. But at the start of a fight, absolutely pop it. 15 seconds of fire rate movement speed. There's a lot of fire rate too. Definitely utilize that. So yep, that's KSVB. Could not bring in an Incarnate build, because Incarnate build was never destined to be able to do the takedown. Please buff Incarnate. Please buff Collector again. Pretty please. The Incarnate build's fun. I enjoyed it a lot, as horrifically RNG as it was. Vex is the real gambling character. It's a shame that it's now about half of how... It's like half as good as it was as a result of that Collector nerf, which is a huge nerf. Like, that's overall damage half as good. Not just like a bonus. That's overall damage about half as good. Oh well. We still got the beloved good build. And here I actually, like, I get ready. Action skill ends. Triple bypass rep kit. Quick inventory swap there. Kaboom! Away we go. So yeah, enjoy the rest of this run. We've got one more left. Spectres. And that was the most difficult platinum of all of these. More difficult than 0 Point. Spectres was tough, because I actually brought a Spectre build. I didn't do Mantra, like in the Subjugator and Thol fight, because in that fight, the Spectres just got distracted and killed things that kept respawning and didn't matter. But in the takedown, everything needs to die. So their aggro and choice of who they shot doesn't matter as much. So I did a Spectre build. The Spectre build is always going to be hybrid. I do a lot of shooting myself, but it was still very tricky, so don't miss that. And last, and also least, we have Spectres. Not Mantra with Spectre support, but an actual Spectre build. Now, this build is a little bit different to when you last saw it, and that's because the standard Spectre rifle did start to fall off in these higher UVHs, and certainly in the UVHs, and certainly in the Mayhems and the bosses. So I am now using Heirloom and giving them a crow source. How to make Spectres good? Put a crow source in their hands. That is literally what we're doing here. Try not to summon them next to barrels. Also, I had to unspec Gastarbate for this, because I was running Gastarbate, lets you spawn them with heavy weapons, but I kept accidentally spawning them in bad positions because of the horrendous cooldown on that, and it just like appears out of nowhere, and they kept killing themselves because Crow Source is splash damage. You gotta be careful of that. And yeah, so this is basically, we summon a Spectre, it kills things, I then go somewhere else and kill things as to not steal the Spectre's kills. And whilst this looks like I'm doing a lot of shooting and killing myself, Spectre damage is real. You can definitely watch them kill bosses with this. What you can do is summon them with a Crow Source, immediately swap to a Beam Tosser, and use Mixologist, and they really mess stuff up. Their damage is genuinely very high, but that's not good for Takedown. We need both of us going. And this is also a build that I needed to make tweaks after starting trying to record for these, because it just didn't have enough in the tank. Like, this is joint in speed with the Crucible run. But the Crucible run, I did a lot of safety measures for consistency, like ignoring some time saves that I could have gone for just to make sure I got it over the line. This, I did not have that luxury. I also had an enemy just not spawn in that run. I don't think anything like that happened in this run. This was tough. But, that said, it made it. It got over the line, and a lot of skills wouldn't be able to do that. And what was the final optimization that I made is I was running Fireworks, but I swapped to the Little Sister shield from this Takedown. When an armor segment breaks, you get this little drone that gives you a double dip on your sources of gun damage, and Spectres are gun damage, so they get that double dip on hit. And it was very, very good. The main issue is consistency. If you avoid damage, which I tend to try and do, you don't get it. So sometimes I'm there like, please shoot me, I need to proc my drone. There's a couple flying around there. And you do notice it, as soon as that drone spawns, your damage and your Spectre damage just jumps up because of that double dip. So that was an important optimization. One thing you can do is get one with the Boxer augment, and then any sorts of melee damage will drain a segment. And you only need to do it every, 15-second duration? Which isn't bad, you know, throwing a Slippy or swap to a Mantra, or just punching something to trigger that for a bit more consistency. Thankfully, there is enough damage in the Takedown flying around that it does have decent uptime. But if you just want to improve the uptime and make it more guaranteed, you have that option. And yeah, so it's just kind of summoning Crow Source. I don't think they get the Elemental Override. I could be wrong on that. I haven't tested enough. All I know is give Spectre Crow Source. Spectre do damage. Spectre is fully capable of killing enemies. I just did there. Obviously, I'm using the element of Crow Source that the boss is going to be weak to. So that's going to be the one that I give the Spectre. So if it does get the Elemental Override, great. I should have summoned one a bit sooner here to help me. I kind of got a bit tunnel vision there. But yeah, the damage isn't so bad. It's nowhere near as good as a normal kill skill build, so we don't have Amp or anything. We don't have Blood is Power, which would probably be the level 70 upgrade. We'll probably drop Prismatic Weaponry and get the points to get Blood is Power. And that will help the Vex damage a handful. Won't really help Spectres too much, unfortunately, but it'll help our damage. Now, as for the class mod choice, you may have noticed I'm using the Living Weapon class mod, and this is for the extra 3 stacks of kill skills, so I'm getting 9 stacks of kill skills, you can see in the bottom left. And not for the main effect. But the main effect of Living Weapon is so depressing. Why has it got a 5-second internal cooldown on a skill that stacks to 9? Why did they think... like, what? Not only is it a very low percentage chance and basically locked to Spectres, 5-second internal cooldown? What were they thinking? Amon gets the Damned, Cash gets the Trainer, which is a Trainer, 240% amp damage and skill damage conversion and 5 points in the wilds. Meanwhile, we get 5-second internal cooldown on a 2% chance to proc a kill skill, of which we have 9 stacks of. Angry Vex sounds. Why can't we get good class mods, please? I beg. For other class mod alternative choices, you can go with the Kindred Spirits. This one offers absolutely nothing for Vex, so probably a bit better after level 70 once we get Blood is Power. And this gives you a huge bonus element for your Spectres in Grave Current, which you could also do, I think. Can we get Grave Current? Yeah, I think we have Mourning. I can't remember the spec, but we might be able to stretch for Grave Current just in the tree. And Grave Current is a massive bonus element for Spectres. Like hundreds. It's a big damage bonuses. So the Kindred Spirits class mod's not terrible at all for making Spectres do damage. It is the Spectre class mod, even though it's a Trouble class mod. So level 70 being able to get that skill is good damage. So Living Weapon, you know, gives us kill skills, which does affect Spectres, but it also affects Vex. So Living Weapon is mainly for making Vex better, whereas Kindred Spirits is for making the Spectres better. The Illusionist, the badass Spectres with prismatic weaponry, what I used in the past, it's not as good. The badass Spectres are just a soup bonus, which Living Weapon gives us even more of, so there's no real reason to use the Illusionist anymore. And prismatic weapon's an okay skill, but it's not amazing, and it's definitely not Grave Current, so unfortunately for a Spectre build, we don't use the Spectre class mod, we use the Trouble class mod. Yeah. This fight is rough. Our damage is not good, and there's enough ads to distract our Spectres. Also, it's very easy for our Spectres to die. So yeah, we just have to try and keep a Spectre up. The Spectres will be shooting things, they'll be proccing kill skills, they'll be doing good damage, they'll be mopping up ads when they do get distracted, and yeah, just trying to keep them out of the way, on top of rocks, that kind of thing, so they don't blow themselves up. And we just gotta slug through it. It's a bit of a slugfest, but we get through. I tried the Lockjaw with Spectres. Did not do nearly as well, and especially struggled in our hands as well, without Amp, without Blood's power. Crow Source was just the way, and it's just being carried by the ridiculous damage of the Crow Source. That's why it works. It's a very, very powerful gun. So, yeah, it's probably not what you were hoping for when I said Spectre build. It's probably not what some would have in mind, but it is what it is. This is the game Gearbox gave us, and we gotta play it. We don't have to, but I choose to. It's fun. And yeah, that is the final run for this. The final run. It's been a long video. My voice is shot, and that's over 2 recording sessions. I died. Thankfully, we don't lose as much damage in Fight for a Life with this build, because we don't have Blood's power. Of course, Loveless is coming out soon. I will probably just do hers separately. Like, 3 Loveless builds with a Takedown, 3 Loveless builds for Subjugator and Thaul. And with level 70, I might do a Bloom Reaper video. Obviously, I never did a Bloom Reaper video. I did a Subjugator and Thaul video like this. I did not do a Bloom Reaper one, so maybe I'll do that, including Loveless. 18 action skills versus Bloom Reaper. Also hoping for some buffs on Gearbox ends. I'd like some buffs to Scourge, some buffs to Lance, some buffs to Incarnate, some buffs to most action skills, augments and capstones, and a few more bossing weapon options as well. Those are what I would like to see buffed. Bossing weapon options to compete with Crow Source and Underbarrels, and buffs to, you know, augments and capstones among the various action skills. But yeah, if anybody is listening to these words at this point, thank you. Whether you skipped here or watched through, had it playing in the background, this has been a long video. I was getting this worried that, obviously recording now, I was worried that, is this just going to look like a live stream VOD on the sub page? Like a 3.5 hour video? Is this going to look like a VOD and it's just going to bomb and not do well? Now I'm scared if I should upload it like this. I will, fuck it, I will. Let's get that out, Rev, hell yeah. I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope my commentary, whilst definitely not perfect, I am kind of pushed for time with this. August, very busy month at work, and I'm trying to get this out in reasonable time before the level cap as well, so it's actually got relevant information. Yeah, the first half of commentaries, did not know about that level cap. Now I do, so I'll have to do what I can to try and, like, update on what the level 70 builds will look like, but, like, it's 10 skill points. You just use the build that's here, and use your best guess, and it won't be bad. It won't be worse, for the most part, so it should be difficult to get it wrong. And there, that was tech. I shot myself, and it triggered Little Sister, and my damage went up. That's not advice. Don't shoot yourself for damage. It just worked there. I'll probably do like a little leaderboard thingy at the end, showing all the times. Not a super representative thing, because it's just these runs, which, you know, I got a run, then kind of moved on. But kind of curious just to see them all in one place, so I'll probably do that and a little bit of commentary there, so... I'll catch you then, and if not, then thank you very much for watching. This is a very long video. It means a lot, so thank you. And yeah, have a good one. finally, here is a summary of all of the runs, fastest to slowest, and then a character average, just, you know, from character average, fastest to slowest. This is just an extra thing I wanted to throw in the end, just for personal curiosity. But don't take these as gospel, because I didn't treat all of these runs equally. My gear on Card Cash wasn't up to the quality of the gear on the other builds. My execution of Lance Rafa was poor. I had time losses on Crucible Amon. I chose to use a slower Red Tree Rafa build when I could have used Sniper Rafa, which was 2 minutes faster. So there's a lot of what ifs, like if I use that Sniper Rafa run, Rafa is the second fastest overall on average because of having 3 decent trees. But of course, you know, there are big time saves to be had on Red Tree Amon. Also, Red Tree Amon's run with the Kickballer is less affected by True Mode because Kickballer just kind of hits map versus other builds being affected on True Mode. So yeah, there's too much nuance to take what this is as the absolute state of things. My takeaways, my professional takeaways that I would trust is Cash fastest, Vex slowest, everything else is just kind of mush in the middle. That would be my takeaway. Cash fastest, Vex slowest. That's it. I would probably overall put Amon a little, like a whisper ahead of Harlowe, but they're very, very close together. And then a bit of a gap to Rafa and Vex at the bottom, even though Rafa's average here is good for almost second place when I use the Sniper Rafa time. It's clear that he does need a little bit of help, even if these times don't suggest so. You know, Blue Tree Harlowe needs help dragging the average down. Crucible Amon, that run, dragging the average down. Without those averages would be much better, of course, you know, with a 7:59 on Horden and Amon, and having the second fastest run overall being the fourth fastest on the average. But yeah, I figure this would be a little bit of an interesting thing to throw in at the end. So yeah, be interesting to see how level 70 shapes up. It'll be fun. I'll keep playing, of course, and yeah. I hoped you enjoyed this video. It's it's a long one. It's a long one, and yeah, not all of these runs were run equally. You know, Gloam Cash and Arcanized Rafa, I grinded a little bit to get a good time, whereas a lot of them, like Neutron Capture and Harlowe, the Heimdall runs, the Kickballer, I just kind of got a run I was happy with, and then moved on. Crucible, I played safe and purposely didn't take some faster strategies just for the sake of consistency. I had the slow spawn. These aren't try-hardy speedruns. Try-hardy speedruns are a bit quicker. Because there was so much to do, and of course I kind of wanted to get this out before the DLC, as of risk of a level cap, which is coming, to invalidate the whole process and all my work. So yeah, not all runs were run equally, but yeah, I'm going to call it there. Thank you very much for watching, and if you want to share this video and just give all the support because of all the work put into it, that would be much appreciated. Do all the YouTube algorithm stuff, but yes, thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. Stay safe, stay awesome, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.